Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I know it's been a while, but it's good to be back here for these beautiful conversations on Crystal One-on-One. Now today I happen to have found a lovely spot along in Tinder 2 Road called La Casita Restaurant and Lounge. Do check it out. There's so many little areas that you can sit. There's color, there's greenery, there's good food. Managed to get my guest to come join me here. Now, she is a breastfeeding and lactation professional. She has the highest credential in lactation and breastfeeding, should I say, worldwide, which is IBCLC. And she is the founder of the Breastfeeding and Lactation Care Center here in Uganda.
Yes.
You're the first person to get those credentials.
Yes.
I do have Rebecca Ssuubi joining me on the show.
Thank you so much.
I'm happy to have you
Yes.
because we started on a conversation and I was like,
Yes.
one of those, what? Tell me
Yes.
more. And I was like, okay, we need to bring this conversation to Crystal One-on-One.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
So, you know, even the last time we
Yes.
talked about what you do.
Yes.
And I didn't really ask too much about, okay, tell me about your childhood, where you were born. So today I want to
Yes.
start there.
That's okay.
You are
Yes.
Ugandan.
Yes, I'm Ugandan.
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm. Born, bred here?
Yes.
Okay.
Born in Uganda, Kampala, Mengo Hospital. I come from a family of 6, 2 older brothers and 3 younger sisters. So it's the boys first, then 4 girls. My parents are born-again Christians. So there's not much drama really. So when I was in P1, my mom, P1, P2, my mom was pregnant and she went to Mengo Hospital for antenatal. And I escorted her that day. We went just the 2 of us.
Okay.
So I remember we sat in a big waiting area and there was a nurse teaching about how babies are supposed to be fed. And she was teaching about how to prepare foods for a baby. Okay, like 6 months, I think. And she was talking about how you have to balance it. And these are the foods which are proteins and carbohydrates and vitamins and minerals. And I remember I was very young, but I had never heard of such a thing. And I was so intrigued. Like I was thinking, okay.
You were like, what, 6, 7
Yes.
years old?
Yeah. So I was thinking, oh my goodness, so babies don't eat like us. Like they're supposed to eat something really special. She didn't talk about breastfeeding, but she really demonstrated there were foods there and she was like, you mash it like this. You have to get an egg yolk or egg or something like that. She talked about nuts. I remember you cook them until the oil is there. Don't add oil, just let the natural. So I was young, but I remember being so interested and I was wishing I could come every time to hear more. So I remember leaving and feeling like, wow, okay, that was some really nice information. So when my mom gave birth, she gave birth to, I think, the babies I remember, our last 2 babies at home. And of course, because I was older, they would say, oh, at this time, make sure you give the baby, give them this food. And I remember that whichever baby was there at the time had a special saucepan, they never cooked for them with the rest of us. And I found that so special and intriguing. So when my mom would like leave, oh, make sure you mash the avocado like this, mix it like this. Like I was fascinated by the care. The care that babies don't just eat anything. They don't bathe at the same time with everyone. They bathe at specific times.
And they have their own special basin.
You know, everything's so special. But mostly, I remember the food. It was so. I remember mixing that food, preparing that food. So, that was actually the beginning of
this love affair with nutrition.
Yes, though it was at a very at a very low level. But it put in me as a child that babies don't eat like everybody else. Children don't eat like everybody. And my mom was very caring when it came to nutrition. Like she cared so much what we ate, how we ate it. Yes, for a certain age, until maybe you were like 5, then it wasn't a big deal. And the people who used to work at our home could get in trouble for what? Just not being, even the plates, cups were especially. My mom is a very clean person, I think, maybe bordering on OCD.
Well.
Yeah. So there was a specific part in the kitchen that the baby's things had to be. You don't just put them anywhere. They have to be boiled after being washed. So all those things really used to intrigue me, and I think they really entered deep into me.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think, I have 3 babies, you have
Yes.
2 now.
Yes.
And these are things you don't really know most times until you have a child. And that's when you begin to realize, oh, I have to sterilize the bottles, I have to do this, I have to stay away from oils, I have to stay away from sugars and all
Yes.
these different things. When we were chatting, you said that your
Yes.
kids don't take sugar.
No, they don't.
Like, what?
Yes, they don't.
So many other parents are feeling guilty right now. They're like, oh, did I give my child soda the other day? Probably. But that's because you kind of also really start to determine their taste buds
Yes.
and what they are drawn
When
to.
you're pregnant. Yes.
Okay.
And I wouldn't encourage anyone to feel guilty, because the only reason people who are particular about what their children eat are people who have educated themselves or been educated. And it's not really a field that has been really taken seriously. And the rival to that is the food industries. So they are targeting lifelong customers. So they start it early. Yes, so don't feel guilty, because it's like the norm, really.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that you touched on, targeting lifelong customers. We'll
Yes.
come back to that later, because
Yeah.
that's also something I thought that was really powerful that
Yes.
we need to talk about.
Yes.
Okay, so this first experience learning about nutrition at 6, 7 years old,
Yes.
it stuck with you.
Yes, it did.
But later on, you went to do food
Technology.
science and technology.
Yes.
Okay. Was the plan before that to do medicine? Or?
No.
Okay. You wanted to do food science and technology.
Yeah, so I was one of those brilliant kids in school, and I just knew brilliant people. They end up, in a certain line. And what I always wanted, even through high school, I was like, I want to be a nutritionist.
So you knew you wanted to be a nutritionist?
Yes, I wanted to be like a doctor who teaches people what to eat and all that. Yes. Then, of course, I think I got to S5. So I knew you'll do medicine, then you specialize as a nutritionist. So there about S5, I think those career guidance talks and everything. I started thinking maybe I should be a dental surgeon. I just was hoping I could do something where you don't do this whole broad thing and then you specialize at some point.
Yeah.
But then when we got to campus, I was given a course and they told us that we can switch.
Okay.
Then that's when I was told about food science and technology.
In terms of your own personal habits before, because you said this was like S6 around there, then you go to university and you were able to change. What were your personal habits like back then? Were you eating oily food, like fried food, deep fried food?
Oh my goodness, my personal experience. So in primary school, we were in a very good primary school. They used to give us very balanced meals. I don't know if you remember City Parents, City Parents School. So we stayed in City Parents School. But I remember they used to really give us amazing food, and what we were having: chips, rice, chicken, fried chicken. It was a really nice menu. So I didn't really have nutrition issues then, but as a very skinny child.
Okay.
When I got to high school, I blew up. Like in S2, S3, I really grew huge, so huge. And of course, nasty, insensitive aunties make it a point to make you feel so terrible about yourself. Yes, so I started maybe being cautious about my nutrition at that time.
Okay.
But of course, it's school. You
It's
can't.
school, sometimes it's hormones.
It was hormones for me, though.
But also the food that you eat at school, the snacks,
Yes.
the break.
But then in my HSC, I started losing a bit, but not too much. Now, when I got to campus, there was a gym right opposite my hostel, and I wanted to lose weight. So I went to the gym and I couldn't lose weight.
Okay.
So now I really researched on my own how to lose weight right. And that's when I really discovered, this is my first year, we hadn't yet touched certain things. I discovered how you can eat right and lose weight, and I lost the weight in 3 months. All of it.
Really?
Yes, I
And
actually
this was
became
you
really
on your
small.
own at that point?
Yes, and I did my own research, reading. I was also working out, but I found out you can eat right and not work out and lose weight, but you cannot work out and not eat right and lose weight.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
So that was when personally, my personal habits really changed when I lost weight at campus. Then of course, then I got so into the nutrition world, and it started influencing
So we
how
know
I
there's
would
a
eat.
love for nutrition, but I know there's also a moment that you fell in love with breastfeeding.
Yes.
And not many people talk about breastfeeding.
Yes.
I know over the years we've seen campaigns of breast is best, campaigns to encourage mothers to breastfeed as, you know, the healthiest option, the best option for babies. But then right alongside that, we have a thriving industry, which is, you know, for moms who maybe for whatever reason can't breastfeed or are very busy, where you're like, oh, you can just buy formula, you know, as an alternative. But your focus is really breastfeeding and
Yes.
lactation. Where did that start?
So, I did
I know
food.
you're so passionate about this.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I did food science and technology. I finished my 4 years, and then we were doing our special projects. In our final year, we are done with school. We are waiting for graduation, and some people had actually already gotten jobs in some food industries around, and I hadn't really. But then a friend of ours told us, oh, there's a national referral hospital, which I won't mention for reasons you know. One of the major national referral hospitals is taking on nutritionists who want to be trained,
Okay.
like fresh off school. You want to be trained in the integrated management of acute malnutrition, infant and young child feeding, and who are being trained in a hospital setting. And this particular place is a center of excellence for managing malnutrition cases. That's where some of the worst malnutrition cases in Uganda are taken and dealt with. And really, they do such a great job. So I just was thinking it's better than sitting at home waiting. So there I went, and on my very first day, unfortunately, I saw a dead body of a child. Actually, there were quite a number. There were like 6 dead bodies which had been wrapped up. I had been sent to pick something, and the place where I was sent, there were 6 dead bodies, and I was so disturbed because I couldn't imagine how can a child die from malnutrition.
And because that particular ward was dealing with
Yes.
acute malnutrition.
Yes. So I would imagine, of course, these are cases that had failed to get better. Of course, sometimes they come in when it's already so bad.
I promise you,
So-
so many people right now also thinking, how does a child die
They do.
of acute malnutrition?
They do. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So I remember I couldn't take it, so I said I won't come back here. But then I went back home and I thought, so I'll have to be home and wait for graduation. No. So I went back the next day, and I remember we were clocking, okay, maybe not clocking in, like we weigh these patients who come in, you weigh them, you take, you know, certain measurements and all that. So there was a public health nurse training us that day, and she told me, you know, they come like this, but there was a third ward where children were doing much better, and she told me they get better. They get better.
Could you see how affected you were, maybe?
Yes, I had told her that I don't think maybe this is the right place for me, because it was too much for me. So I just couldn't believe they do get better. But then when I went to the other ward, they told us, oh, these kids came like that. So it was my first time to see a type of malnutrition where a kid swells up and they look like they've been burnt with very hot water, you know, oedematous malnutrition. And it has stages 1, 2, 3. And then there was that one which they don't get swollen, but they're like wasted, absolutely wasted. And those ones are such dangerous cases. Then I saw cases, it was terrible. So the reason I stuck around when she encouraged me was that she said that they get better. So there was a particular child, I took their measurements when they were coming in. I found an old woman seated with a blanket covering her. So I asked her, hey, how can we help you? She opened the blanket and there was a child. And you know, looking at her seated, you couldn't have imagined there's a child on her lap. That's how wasted the child was. So I took the history and I was like, I need to see if this child will get better. Unfortunately, the child died. And it was my very first time to see a child who had cerebral palsy, that disease. And it was so shocking. If you know that disease, to see a wasted, malnourished child with cerebral palsy, it's a terrible sight. So from what I gathered, I think she had just kept her somewhere in the corner of the house, hidden her because she was disabled. And like, yeah, she wasted away, you know. So anyways, I stayed
So by
around.
the time she came, it was too late.
It really was. I stayed around for other cases, and then I saw cases start to get better. But one particular case which started getting me interested in breastfeeding was a teenage mom who came with a baby who hadn't breastfed for about 5 months. And this baby was so malnourished, the mom was so young, and so the public health nurse who was like taking us, I was following around that date learning from, she asked the mom, do you want to breastfeed again? So I was as shocked as the mom, because the mom had said, I've not breastfed in 5 months, I don't have milk. And that was her reason.
Like her whole body had said, oh, okay, let's just close that chapter.
Yeah, so I was so intrigued. I was so intrigued. Have you ever had someone ask something and it's like a question that's so out of this world, and you're determined and invested to find out where it ends? Sometimes I think that's divine, because there are so many outrageous questions I've had, but that particular one, what?
Like, do you want to breastfeed
You
again?
can make the breast milk come back. I have to see this. I had to see this. So I stuck to that case, and I remember they actually relactated. It's called relactation.
Relactation.
Yes, they relactated her. The milk first came in little, and then they showed her how to increase. By the time she was discharged, and the baby was doing so much better, she was full on breastfeeding.
And this
I
was a
remember
teenage mom.
She was a teenage mom.
So she didn't know what she was doing.
No, she didn't. I was so shocked. I was absolutely shocked, because at the time I had a friend who had given birth and was formula feeding. And she said she didn't have milk. So I knew some people don't have milk, other people have milk.
Yes, a lot of women,
So I
that's
was like,
what they go
do
through.
the people in Uganda know about this thing?
So basically what you're telling me is that even with most cases, when you
Yes.
think you don't have milk as a mom, there are things like you can actually do. Because there's
Yes.
someone who will say, oh, I drank all the porridges, I hot tea, hot this, I did all the things I was told to do, but still the milk did not come.
Yes, but that's because they have inaccurate information. What you eat or what you drink is like number 5 down there on the list of things you need to do to increase your milk supply.
Okay.
But most people take it as number 1. Yes, so that's why for some people it won't work. For other people, it works for a while, then the milk starts reducing anyway. So eventually it dries up. So anyway, if what people eat and drink was the perfect intervention for increasing your milk supply, would not be having as many
No,
breastfeeding
you've really
challenges.
confused many of us.
No,
but
that's
yeah,
the
but
truth,
that is the
though.
reality. Because many people will take the porridge, the brown porridge every day and it's not really healthy.
And for the people who it actually works, it's because they have unknowingly or knowingly tended to the top things you actually have to do without knowing or knowingly. So anyway, so there we had an amazing, brilliant, serious director at that particular ward, and now they told us she's going to be teaching about breastfeeding, those who want to come and learn. Of course, I was like number 1 in that room, you know. I was like, I want to learn. And then she taught us so many things. She taught us how a lot of breastfeeding challenges women face, they don't have to. You're not supposed to feel pain while breastfeeding. She taught us where it comes from and what to do. You're not supposed to not have milk.
Sometimes sore nipples because of also how the baby's not latching properly.
Yes. Nipple problems, wounds, bleeding, so many things. She taught us how wrong it is to feed a child on anything besides breast milk when they've just been born. In that first 1 hour, she showed us something called the breast crawl. She showed us so much. She showed us international policies around breastfeeding, which I didn't know, because there's no other food that has such serious policies in place. And in many countries, actually, laws, not just policies and recommendations. So she actually explained to us the history of infant formula and how scandalous it was, and why the World Health Organization, the World Health Assembly, UNICEF, and all these major organizations came together to come up with what fascinated me so much at the time was the International Code of Marketing Breast Milk Substitutes, which was, it's a code put in place that prohibits giving health workers money to promote formula, financial incentives, so many things. And when you look through the history of where it came from, millions of babies had died. So I remember being so shocked, because I knew so many hospitals which they really promote formula. They don't give mothers any support. There's something called BFHI, Baby Friendly Health Facility Initiative. It used to be called hospital initiative. So it has all these 10 steps. They keep adjusting or increasing them. And it's all about how to make sure your hospital is baby friendly. And for a hospital to be called baby friendly, it has to be favoring and supporting and promoting and protecting breastfeeding. And not just with lip service, but there are certain steps in place. So I was just so shocked.
Just like, what, wow.
I was so shocked because I was like, how is this information not out there?
I know that like nearly every hospital or maternity ward and area, pediatrician, they're supposed to have a lactation specialist. I heard this later on. Personally, I didn't experience it. I mean, I was guided on how to breastfeed, and I did breastfeed all my 3 children. But a lactation specialist that is supposed to help women who have challenges, I found out about this after my last child was already grown. I'm like, okay. And that's because in those cases, and I remember, I'll share my own experience, being told by one of the nurses that you should give your baby a little bit of formula every night. Just a little bit every night.
Why?
Because the breast milk is not enough.
Oh dear.
And so just in case something happens, you know, some babies completely reject formula if they are used to breast milk.
We don't have very good documentation in Uganda concerning our breastfeeding history. But in the US, it's said that they actually removed breastfeeding education from medical schools in a certain era. And they had formula companies come in and teach about how to feed formula and how formula was such an alternative to breast milk. Like any breastfeeding challenge you get, there's always formula. And
So
actually,
it was a marketing campaign that was so
Yes.
successful, became the norm.
Yes. And actually, the book that I was reading was talking about how that's some of the marketing strategies. Formula targeted health workers to the point that they were even reducing the amount of breastfeeding teaching that was happening in medical schools, but that was in the US at a certain time. So about Uganda, I don't know why, but I know my friends who have done medicine here, when I ask them, how many hours of breastfeeding education did you have? It's scary. One of them told me less than 5 or less than 10. A whole doctor who's going to be working
how
with
many
children.
years of...
Yes.
That's all.
Yes.
So literally, they just skimmed it.
Yes, so you don't really blame them because it's the structure. I don't know about now, and I asked.
But this was when you were...
Yeah, about
a
2 years
student.
ago, I was asking some of my friends, like, but how much breastfeeding education did you have?
Okay.
Even my friends now who are doctors and are well knowledgeable about breastfeeding have had to take extra courses, have extra training to learn about that. But this is a doctor you're going to send into pediatrics.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of painting health workers in a bad light because they do such a great job.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that in a negative way.
I mean, look at the nurse that, you know, inspired
Yes.
you.
Oh, yes. So when it comes, you see that there was a decline in breastfeeding education, even among health workers. So by the time, most times when I talk about the WHO code, I have not yet met a health worker who has heard about it, except the people who trained me in that hospital.
So there's just a gap in that information.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now you have, now, for example, there are countries which took it so seriously, most developed countries, Australia, the US, the UK. That's how the IBCLC credential actually came about, where they realized there have to be trained health professionals that are skilled in lactation care, that are skilled and have evidence-based information to help mothers. So it's like how you can have a doctor, but one is a pediatrician, one is a neurologist, one is a
Cardiologist.
So there's speciality. So that's how they decided to have the breastfeeding field have a speciality in the health workers team. That's why you'll find a doctor who's completely uneducated about breastfeeding. The most they know is that breastfeeding is good. But when it comes to the technical skill, they tell a mother something like, no, give formula at night and breastfeeding during the day. Now, no trained health professional in the field of breastfeeding can say something like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. That's the first cue that this person is not well trained in this field.
Yeah.
But now to get mothers to know that they need to actually see a breastfeeding specialist, a lactation consultant, when you're pregnant, usually it's not really been a field that has been expounded on, which takes me back to why when I learned those things when I was at that hospital, Actually, I stayed there for a while, and me, I just wanted breastfeeding cases.
Yes,
Yeah.
you were just like, oh my gosh, I am
Yes.
so fascinated.
So I was so blessed to be with people who I could learn from, and they trained me how to support a mom who has this challenge, that challenge. We saw so much success in the field of helping mothers who have come in and they're not breastfeeding, live when they're breastfeeding. Then those who have terrible information about breastfeeding learn so much. And then, of course, I was also privileged to be, she's a top person, our director at that time. So she had these teams which would travel across the country to train health workers up country, in refugee settlements, are all about breastfeeding, infant nutrition. So I got very good training from her when I was from those teams rather. Yes. So I was in a hospital setting, and I managed to have access to hands-on experience working with moms having breastfeeding challenges. And I remember feeling like, but can't I take this breastfeeding thing much further than this?
Because you felt like every mother should know this information.
I need to tell you that story.
Because that's the thing, it's like, how do everyone should know this, right?
So, me excited
And
as I
let me
was.
just even talk about how formula breaks the bank, how expensive it is. Anyway.
Yes, so I get so excited about my newfound information about breastfeeding. And I decide to myself, I'm going to call all the mothers in Kampala. This is me, not yet graduated. They are in being trained as a nutritionist with malnutrition and everything. I have decided I'm going to collect all the moms in Kampala because I really felt like every mom needs to have this information. Collect them at Serena and teach them.
Oh, bless.
So I go to my very serious director, and people used to fear her, but I don't know what was wrong with me. I went boldly, yeah? And I told her, so doctor, I think we should call all the women in this city, collect them at Serena, and we teach them about breastfeeding, like yesterday. So Bambi, the lady looked at me and she said, okay, go ahead, you can arrange, you keep me updated. Let me tell you, I was so sure I was going to collect all the people and teach them. There was no doubt in me. I was so excited about it. So I went. Mama Tendo at that time was like a big deal on Facebook. Social media wasn't as big as it is now. Yeah, but Mama Tendo was huge. So in my head, I said she's going to do our marketing. She's going to announce on her page. Everybody's going to come. Who wouldn't want to learn this, yeah? So I call the lady. I dragged her to that hospital. I remember she even told me, I'm so busy, what? She will definitely remember me as some young girl who had too much passion. So I drag her to the hospital. I tell her this great idea we have, yeah? So I finally tell doctor, so the marketing person is in place. Also, the mothers are obviously coming. We have the information. Now what next? I've planned. So I reach out to a friend of mine who used to have events at Serena, and I ask her, so I want to hold this event. What can we do? So the first thing she told me is the venue was 10 million shillings. So I said, what? I mean, like 800K. Because we are teaching people about breastfeeding. Like,
And everyone needs to know
a lot
this.
of,
How dare you
anyway.
even charge us?
So I go to a doctor. I tell her, so doctor, we just need 10 million for the venue. And of course, she's like, oh yeah, so the way this works, we can lobby for funding.
Because it's not
Funding.
just the venue. You have to organize everything. Then there's a sound. Then the hey.
No, not in my head. My head, we have the information. The mothers are there. What more do we need?
Everyone will come and sit on the floor and
No,
just
they're going
talk.
to sit. I don't know what we had I thought that fun? No. Me, I just knew we were going to teach mothers about
Love the
breastfeeding.
enthusiasm.
When she told me, so you know, funding is required. I was like, in my head, I was thinking, by the time we get funders, what? The mothers, they need to know today. Not next week, not next month, today. We need to. So I lost all the gas. And of
Yeah.
course, at that time, I was much younger. I didn't know about how to pursue big dreams, that it takes baby steps to achieve big dreams, you know. So I remember I was so deflated, I was so disappointed. Every time I would see a breastfeeding mom or what, I would try to give information that I have not been asked, unsolicited advice.
Oh, you're that person.
Yes.
Ah, a blessing,
know?
but also quite aggressive.
Yes, and they taught us, of course, counseling techniques. You don't jump on somebody. But what do you do if somebody's not asking you? Yeah, and they need to know. So, and I felt like if this dream doesn't happen now, it's never happening. So, of course, it was very disappointing for me. I couldn't do it. But of course, I continued being trained there and learning so much, so much. I remember I had all these million. I used to wish like the women who had gone through that place could be showcased on TV, and their kids, you know, they came like this, they left like this. Of course, then I learned about privacy, and their privacy has to be protected. So many things.
Yeah,
So
not everyone wants to have.
exactly. Did I think?
Sometimes there are mistakes on display for the world to see.
Yes. And of course, Africans are a bit sensitive about, I didn't do this right. And
Yeah.
people already have mom guilt by the time their children are
Thank you. Mom
malnourished.
guilt is a real thing.
Yeah. But of course, at that age, I just felt like, I guess it will never happen. I guess it will never.
So you just shelved it, the dream at that point?
Yes, but because I was at the hospital, I at least could still work with breastfeeding
Like, let me
moms.
work with whoever I can get my hands on.
Yes,
No?
yes. I could miss lunch if it meant that, if I have, you know, I was so passionate about it. But then after that, I got a job in a totally different field, still in health, but a different field of health.
So when did you hear about that credential, the IBCLC?
Well, still I was in another job, but I would search on Google and I'd be like, so like, if someone really studies this thing for, because I researched around here, now I was trained everything they could teach me in this country. So I think our highest, you'd be like a national trainer, but that's a trainer, you know. When you compare with the kind of specialists we have worldwide, there's so much more than that. And the information I had, right now I look at it and I'm thinking it was so basic. It was so, so basic, yet it would transform lives compared to now the education and the training I have, like something much more advanced. So something within me just wanted something way more advanced. So I learned on it, and I realized there's such a thing as a certification that's so international and very high and globally recognized.
Yeah.
Then I saw the money.
Oh. And you said, okay, let me first
I
wait.
saw the money. I was still in my dad's house. Still, yeah. So what thousands of how many dollars? Then the training, the what? I just said, I guess no.
I mean, I know eventually you managed to get the support of your husband.
Yes,
And
I
he believed
did.
in your dream.
Yes.
I'm sure you were also talking to him all the time about it, right?
Everyone who knew me knew that I love breastfeeding. I have friends. I would drive when I hear they're given birth. I would drive to their homes, tell them, now this is how you attach, this is how you position, this is the problem you'll face if you do this wrong. If you want milk, do this, do this, do that, do the other, do that. The little information that I had, that was before my training. So the passion was not resting. Yes.
Okay, that's nice
Yes.
to know. It's nice to know that even though you had to put pause on certain things,
Yes.
like, I mean, now you became the first Ugandan to hold those credentials.
Yes, I
So
did.
that's nice. I think a second person has now joined you.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Sometimes you have to be the first so that you open the gates
Yes.
for other people to say, oh, we need this.
Yes.
And I hope that there will be more funding for
Yes.
more people
Yes.
to get to this point, because you pursued it on a personal level.
Yes, I did.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Thank
Now, this passion that you have for breastfeeding and lactation, you talked about nutrition before and your time in the hospital and how you just learned so much about. I mean, it's funny what you're saying
So
about
much.
your mom being so particular about children.
Yeah.
It really boils down to that you
Yes.
cannot give children
Just
everything that
yes.
adults take.
Yes.
But then there's also a responsibility in making sure we give children balanced diet, the right food. Did you find a challenge later in life when you're like, okay, is when you go out into the world and you look at what other people are feeding kids and what you were like when you became a mom yourself, did you find a challenge there? That
All
like,
the time. All the time.
but
I
people
think
say that, you know, as Uganda, for example, we're so blessed. We have organic food everywhere. We have fruits, we have vegetables.
Do you know that there's a time in Uganda where there's a place in Western Uganda was ranking after Karamoja in malnutrition? Yes. Yes, go and look it up.
And I remember interviewing Tracy,
Yes,
you know,
I know Tracy.
who has the first breast milk bank in
Yes,
Uganda, and she's doing
yes.
amazing work.
She is.
And it came from a place of losing her own child
Yes.
because she gave her premature baby formula and finding out that that is something
It's
that
deadly.
thank you. And I don't even know if many people know that. I don't even know if, you know, in the antenatal classes you take that is ever mentioned until maybe you find yourself having a premature baby. Why is that? Why is it so deadly?
Formula has a child has their own needs. Okay, a human being, a human baby has needs, nutritional needs, and they're very high. When you look at all the mammals, cows, goats, whales, all that, they are born when they can do certain things that human beings can't do until a much later stage. Like,
Oh yeah, they come out and then they
Yeah.
get on their feet and
goats are born and they walk that day. Cows are born, they walk that day. And so many other mammals you will see around. Human beings take months and months to walk. They are completely helpless. Why is that? Because they are born with completely undeveloped systems. Their brains are really undeveloped. Their immune system is undeveloped. Their digestive system, everything. But mostly their brain. So the human brain grows in the womb, but it mostly grows outside the womb. These other animals, most of their brain grows in the womb. And breast milk is species specific. That means the breast milk caters for the needs of that species.
that's true. I remember reading somewhere they said that, you know, the best substitute was camel. I think camel milk. I'm like, camel milk?
If you
And then
are
some people
camel.
say goat's milk, and then of course most people look at cow's milk, which we even drink as adults.
I know that's another challenge. There are too many myths around breastfeeding. All those things are not true. When you look at research, Lancet recently released a research on this very year, 2023.
Lancet.
Yeah,
pharmaceutical
and I remember when they were launching it, the man made a very scary statement that formula cannot replace breast milk. Why I say it's scary is because I wish I could tell you that it can, because it would make life easy for you, but I would be lying to you. But when they look at the research, they really tell you formula is not a substitute for breast milk.
because of the properties.
Because of what a human baby actually needs at that stage in the first 2 years of their life, and because of what formula has to offer. There is a place for formula. It's not like poison.
Thank you,
per
because
se.
there sometimes it will save our life.
There's a place for formula. And that place, we are very far from it, because a very large percentage of babies who actually take formula don't need it. And if their mothers or their families had had the kind of support when it comes to breastfeeding information, breastfeeding support, breastfeeding interventions, they would not be taking it.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? So even the children where formula was actually necessary and it had to be brought in, there's something they will still lack that they are not able
And
to
that's
get.
not even guided by a professional, health professional, to tell you the right kind.
Uneducated and biased health professionals, because health professionals are unfortunately some of the most highly paid people by formula companies to promote formula. Please don't come for me. Don't come for me. I'm telling you what is the truth. Yeah, that you may not hear wrong,
No, but
that's
I
the
hear
truth.
you. I mean, also in terms of like our babies, human babies, their immune systems are so undeveloped.
Yes.
And I remember, at least the one thing I remember was that very first milk, the colostrum. Is it colostrum?
Yes, cholesterol.
That's so important, but because of the antibodies it gets from the mother to, you know, to give it. And if you breastfeed a child, apparently religiously for 2 years, they won't even get sick because they get all the immunity protections from you as a mom. So I remember hearing all this. Yes, well and good.
But you're blessed that you had that.
Yes.
Most moms don't.
Ah,
Yes.
okay.
I remember, yes, much as I learned a lot from my mom about nutrition, I remember there's this formula she bought and she told us it's amazing, amazing. So I grew up with that, knowing that formula is actually really... So also me, when I got to that hospital where I was trained, I was so shocked to find out it's actually not that way. So back to the other question you asked me, that formula can be deadly. Yes, it can be very deadly. Now for premature babies, because, you know, I was explaining to you that breast milk is species specific.
Yes, yes.
Breast milk of a goat caters to the needs of a goat. A goat does not need as much brain development as a human being. A cow does not need as much brain development as a human being. That's why cow milk, when it's being processed to be turned into formula, they have to add additives that help with brain growth. And even those additives are not as well absorbed as those that are naturally occurring in breast milk. And that's research-based, evidence-based. I'm not just talking things I don't know about.
Speaking of research-based, evidence-based, we talked
Yes.
about soy.
Yes.
Also.
Yes.
Yes.
So as
Especially,
I was, for
let me,
example,
you take it away. I'm not going to get in trouble.
you want me to get in trouble, Crystal?
No, we have to talk about these things.
So when a pig's milk is for a pig.
Yes.
That's the way the body of the pig makes milk for its child. You understand?
Yeah.
Again, I'll give you the example. That's why cow milk, when it's being processed to be given to babies, they have to add certain additives. And even then, there's a lot that they miss out on, a lot that they cannot manufacture in a factory because breast milk has living organisms. Okay? Let's first put that on a side. Whales are mammals, okay? If their breast milk is so specific to whales that they breastfeed in the ocean. Have you ever thought of that? That's how species specific. So if I get human breast milk to feed a whale, it's going to dissolve in the water because it does not take into consideration the circumstances, the surroundings, and the growth. That's how specific breast milk is. And now the undermining of breastfeeding and breast milk had to happen for formula to get higher sales, for formula to get more clients, for formula. Formula is slowly pushing. They have succeeded in certain areas to become the normal way of feeding babies.
Yeah.
And why the IBCLC profession is so serious and why it was really put at the front internationally and why I'm so passionate about it is because you have to train moms, you have to train families, you have to train communities, you have to train health workers about the importance of completely supporting, promoting, and protecting breastfeeding, or else we are raising another species altogether. We are raising children who have underdeveloped immune systems, completely underdeveloped brains, because studies show that actually optimally breastfed children, by optimally breastfed I mean 6 months exclusive breastfeeding, introducing nutritious foods at 6 months, then going all the way to 2 years or beyond if you're able to.
Yeah, still breastfeeding. Yeah.
They show that their brains develop differently. They have more parts of their brains that are more developed. Then when you get to the digestive system, that one you just have to cry. Severe colic has become normal to people. They think it's normal for a child to have severe colic. Allergies. New diseases that our grandmothers never even heard about, autoimmune diseases, are on the rise. So we are raising a generation of children who are, I'm sorry to use the term, but like, are we growing human beings? Or because a human being who whose immune system cannot protect them from even the slightest cold, anything they're allergic to this, allergic to that, allergic to the other. When you come to their brains, now you add screens.
And now we add all these
screens,
ADHDs,
processed food. And this would actually be normal information if marketing of formula was not on such levels. You need to know the kind of budget formula companies put into their marketing. Lancet again released the damage that's being done by marketing of formula. And of course they won't put it on billboards and what, but they'll come through health workers.
Just think about every pharmacy you go to. Chances are the
pharmacies.
walls are plastered.
They display right as soon as you enter.
Supermarkets, plastered everywhere. So it's that constant visual.
Even supermarkets, they display them right at the front as soon as you get in. But there's now the online advertising they do. And it's so sneaky and it influences someone right into their subconscious. Like, they will hear you talk about your breastfeeding, but deep down they know this formula was made by a white person in a very researched factory. Don't tell me anything, okay? Me in
something made in a lab is better than what your own body produces.
Yeah, because
isn't that so warped?
There's clever people who made it, you know. That's how deep marketing goes. Yeah. So I was
kind of funny.
I was still telling you about the specificity of breast milk. So because human beings have the most complicated brains, breast milk has unbelievably, like, you cannot believe the number of substances it has that grow the human brain. And those are just the ones we know. There are those we don't know. For example, breast milk is one of the things that every time we are learning more and more and more about. Stem cells were discovered in breast milk in like 1996. But were they not there all the 1800s, 1700s? Mothers had been breastfeeding for thousands of years before they discovered there were stem cells. And they're actually being used in all this research of how to cure cancer and everything. Now, stem cells being found in breast milk was such groundbreaking discovery. But do you know how many more things are in breast milk that we don't know? The complexity of the human eye, how it's made, the complexity, because there are benefits to the development of the eyes that are found in breast milk. Your lifelong, a child is breastfed for however little you breastfeed them, but of course if you're able to make it to the optimal age, they have advantages for the rest of their life. And the same goes for children who are unfortunately not able to be breastfed. There's like childhood obesity on the rise. Do you know the percentage you put your child at for getting early onset of child obesity?
I know.
When you start them off on formula?
Let's be honest, you see it. We see
Yeah.
we see so many young children who are so obese, I have to say. They
And
can't run, they...
So you start off on formula and you follow on with processed, sugary foods, highly processed foods, and then we just make the pharmaceutical companies just love our countries, you know?
Because you're priming yourself for
Yes.
lifelong diseases that will have to be managed with drugs.
Yes, that's true.
So it's actually like, they're grooming lifelong patients.
Yes. So the question of the hazards that come with infant formula, however many tables that shakes, I'm so sorry, but it's part of my job to share such information.
You also said something else. Is it about the digestive system, the
Yes.
digestive tract? It's porous, was it?
Yes, it is.
I'd never heard of that.
So the human digestive system is born when it's really underdeveloped.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of things are very tough on a child's digestive system. Breast milk is very easily digestible. Very easily digestible. That very first breast milk that the baby takes in as soon as they are born, in that first 1 hour, it does something called coating on the inside of the intestine. Because the baby is born with the intestines, they
like literally have holes.
Yes. That's the easy way to put it.
Yeah.
I
You
don't
said
want
porous before,
yes,
so
I don't want my fellow
meaning-
health workers to be like, no, you didn't choose the right term. We are talking to people who are not health workers, yes.
Layman's language, hey.
So there's a coat that colostrum puts in the digestive tract to avoid infections into the bloodstream.
Okay.
Yes. You know things in your intestine, some things they should go out, they should not enter your blood.
Yes,
You know, eh?
absolutely.
So there's a very dangerous infection called NEC, and preterm babies who die, a number of them die from that. It's called necrotizing enterocolitis,
Yes.
NEC in short. But it happens when there's an infection that has seeped through
Okay. Because you even said even
into the
water,
bloodstream.
like
It's not
newborn
recommended at
babies
all.
and should
No.
not take water.
Not at all. There are certain interventions which are made that are medical, where maybe those are exceptions, but now the norm. The norm. This colostrum, when a baby takes it, it coats their intestine inside to protect them from getting infection seeping through into their blood. 1. 2, it helps them pass that meconium. All the things they used to feed on when they were in the womb, they pass that first poop. If that first poop is not passed, it can be toxic to the body.
Yes, that
Yes.
first weird black sticky.
Yes, it can be toxic to the body, really toxic. The child can actually get really bad issues that are lifelong. There's, of
I
course,
thought naturally every
digestibility.
baby excretes that, but that's interesting.
Because that first breast milk has it's a laxative. A laxative is something that can help you pass poop. Yes. So the breast milk really helps the baby to do that.
It's crazy.
No, I think you've heard that formula gives a lot of babies constipation.
Yes, and that's the thing. When you said that you shouldn't give water, I remember people saying, oh, give them formula, but make sure you also give the baby water. Because, I'm sorry, I'm just saying what I've heard and seen over the years.
No, okay.
But people are like, oh, give the baby just a little bit of water because, it's so concentrated, they might get constipation. This is, I think, the norm for many people.
The actual evidence-based information is that because babies have underdeveloped kidneys, before 6 months, they are not ready to be taking water.
Wow.
And actually, I'm sorry I refer to the US, but because they have so much, they are well published, like they have very good records. There are instances of children who have gotten brain issues from being given more than their bodies can handle. So this water, they don't need it. An exclusively breastfeeding baby does not need water.
Because it has everything.
Yes.
Literally, it deals with the thirst, it deals
Yes.
with the hunger, because even the different types of milk,
Yes.
there's the more,
For milk, then there's the high milk.
then there's
And
a thicker one, and it's crazy.
if you're giving formula,
And now you're saying even breast milk is a laxative.
yes,
Like, what?
especially for newborn babies. So when you're giving formula, there are specific instructions of how it needs to be mixed. You need to follow those instructions.
Yes, yes, yes.
Don't add excess water because that's not what the baby needs. Both times I gave birth, the midwife who worked with me before told me, please pack this tin.
Yeah, they tell you have to come with
She
it.
even had a brochure from a formula place. Yeah, this is the best one. She didn't know who she was
That's what
talking
I'm
to.
talking about. Because when you arrive for your baby to be born, you
Yeah.
have your little suitcase,
So-
you've got the receiving blanket, all the things you've been told to
How
bring.
is a
But
formula
they also
tin-
tell you to bring formula
No.
just in case you don't have milk.
Before you tell a mom to bring formula, undermining her confidence in her ability to breastfeed, you need to be training this mom about how to have enough breast milk, what to do, what challenges to expect. Those are the kind of things you need to teach a mom before you start giving her a brochure of a formula company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Formula tins are not supposed to be in among the things I'm bringing to give birth. You're not supposed to be giving moms free formula tins, first of all. There are hospitals which do.
Which do. Yeah.
I should not say that. But I'm sorry,
Give you the
but
first taste.
yes, and that's actually one of the things that WHO came out very hard against,
Very strongly against.
because you're promoting. So before you've given me a conversation on how to address, okay, I've given birth, I don't have milk, what should I do? Before you've given me, either give me a professional to help me.
Yeah.
Before you promote to me how I need to come with a tin of formula in the hospital, you're promoting formula feeding.
That's true.
Once. Secondly, you're stripping mothers of their confidence in their ability to breastfeed. You're getting a vulnerable person who wants the best for their child. Because most people, they know somehow
Yeah.
breastfeeding is the best thing, but they told me I may not have enough breast milk right there.
Yeah.
You've
Your
become
baby's
a
born,
formula
they say, oh,
salesperson.
or even, and sometimes even like you talked about support, right? Sometimes it's even the people who are there with you. It might be a sister, it might be a parent. Mothers. And they're like, the baby's hungry, because the baby's crying. Hey, you don't have enough milk, let's give them formula. And then what happens? The baby just, it sleeps for like hours after that.
Please
Poor
allow
body
us
is-
to talk about that today. Please, I have to talk about what to do when you don't have enough breast milk at birth. So anyway, but to conclude the matter of the whole pack a tin in your bag for the hospital, it's not right.
Yeah.
It's absolutely not right. If you have not gone through with me the steps of how can I navigate my breastfeeding journey, how do I prepare for my breastfeeding journey? In the medical profession, in the health world, we have what is called referral.
Yeah.
If you've come to me and that's not my area of speciality, I can refer you to someone who it is. I do not tell you to go and buy formula. I refer you to someone who is more trained than me, who has more information than me. So that's again the way we refer someone to a cardiologist when they come to a general physician who is not as well trained in the field of heart issues.
Yeah.
That's the way we should be treating breastfeeding, because it's a very, very serious thing. A mother who is not able to breastfeed but wanted to breastfeed,
Yeah.
you affect their postpartum period. You're introducing this child
Because
to
that
diseases.
mom guilt you're talking about,
yes.
it's so...
You're introducing this child to lifelong diseases by discouraging their mother from breastfeeding, by not providing professional support, and real professional support, not hearsay or information you've gotten from formula companies.
But when you say support, it's not just professional support. I mean, I touched on our family. We
Yeah.
love you, but hey, sometimes, I guess, lack of information as well. But sometimes even support outside, in the outside world, which is why you're seeing companies abroad now trying to make sure they have lactation rooms.
Breastfeeding is an issue. It's a national issue. It's a national issue. It concerns the LC1, it concerns the grandparents, it concerns the schools. It's for real. So why I still say professional information is imagine those schools that are well educated on the benefits of breastfeeding. You can't just educate the mom or the dad or the family. As you've said, the workplaces, for a workplace to invest in a proper place for moms to pump, breastfeed and all that, they have to be educated about it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then,
So it's a national issue. It is a national issue, yeah.
So I guess this is why I ask you.
Yes.
You are the founder of the Breastfeeding and Lactation Care Center.
Yes, I am.
Okay. When did you decide to jump into that?
Yes. So in 2021, after my dream was resurrected, I started pursuing my IBCLC credential. I think I started in 2020, yes. Then in 2021, I got certified. I'm very excited. So what I wanted was to put something that would be like a lactation consultancy. So that's when I opened my foundation, and so why I opened up the Breastfeeding and Lactation Care Center is that I thought there's a place that needs to be there, that moms should just come, families, community, okay, not communities, they can't fit there.
Well, we
But
never, hey, possibly in the future, we shall go
members
out
of
to the
community.
communities.
Oh yes, for communities you have to reach out to them. So where we come to just, if you have breastfeeding challenges, please come. We shall give you
Even if you
professional.
know someone who's about to have
Yes.
a child and you're going to be their support
Yes.
person.
Yes, so I hold master classes, like an antenatal breastfeeding master class. We had our very first big one at Golf Course Hotel in June, on June 3rd.
Okay.
It had my dream from 2000 when I was in the hospital before I graduated. I finally did it, and I want to be doing it much more often. Though those who missed, there were people who were not able to make it, so they let me know. We are launching our website soon, actually. We're going to have a lot of these online master classes. Antenatal, a weaning master class, because weaning is part of breastfeeding, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Because at
It
6
can be
months...
difficult when that baby likes that booby.
Yes, but weaning, I mean even starting the process, at 6 months you have to introduce
The food, yeah.
Yes, so this mom has been trained on how to breastfeed, how to navigate breastfeeding challenges. Now 6 months, breast milk is no longer enough. But because there are things in breast milk that no food can replicate, we continue to 2 years.
Okay.
And the baby still needs. So how to prepare nutritious foods, what mistakes to avoid, what foods to avoid, how to prepare them, how to make sure they are amazing for your baby. They are not bland and boring, you know. Yeah, so we also have working moms.
So even talking about the actual foods that...
Yes, we talk about when you do our winning masterclass.
And still the passion for nutritious food. I can see it's still very much there.
So we have a working mom's breastfeeding masterclass, how to navigate working away from your baby while breastfeeding. I had a new friend of mine, Bambi, who shared with me how she had to work in a different country from her baby, but would travel every weekend, and she never got to breastfeed. But she really wanted to.
Yeah.
So my heart goes out for her, because I wish she had given birth now, because I would have shared with her what she could do, you know. Then we have so many master classes, caretakers, because you can't educate just yourself. You have to educate the person you're leaving your baby with. We have interventions, so there's anticipatory guidance. That's like teaching you before you get the problems. Then there's interventions. Now you have the problems. I wish you had come earlier, but you didn't, and it's okay. But these are the professional interventions that we can come up with. So
that's amazing work that you're doing. Really, I have to say, amazing work, and I'm always blown away by how passionate you are. It's always a tricky conversation because mom guilt is real, and there are situations where formula is really the only option. But that's also because, unfortunately, in this country, we don't have breastfeeding banks. We don't, and then also there's a perception. I feel like some people, they're like, I'm not giving my baby some other woman's breast milk, and then they'll rather use formula, right?
And so you've given birth. Let's say you have a premature baby who can't latch, can't do anything. The very first option is the mother's expressed breast milk. And on that note, I would like to mention that there are so many gadgets and there's a lot of technology around supporting breastfeeding that we don't have in this country and we don't even know about. I'm planning to bring in some soon. They're really expensive.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They're really expensive. But that's something that would be so nice for every NICU in Uganda to have.
Yeah.
Those kind of hospital grade pumps, and knowing how to use them. Then I want to go into other things that can really help a mother's breastfeeding journey. But I was telling you, the very first thing is expressed mother's milk. The next thing is pasteurized donor milk.
Yes.
So why a mother shouldn't be scared about, oh, that's another mom's milk, if you're getting it from a breast milk bank that is professional. Because in our Uganda, you have to add that because, but the breast milk banks I know Atta, then
Yes,
I know
Atta.
Zambia has one.
Yes, yes.
So I wouldn't want to give information I don't know much about, but I would imagine a place like, I've seen Tracy is very passionate about what she
She's very
does,
passionate.
especially because she has a personal story behind it. So I'm sure she has, I am not sure, I hope, and she looks like she has followed the right protocol.
Oh, she has. She's taken
Yes.
it on and she's being trained.
Yes.
I see her constantly traveling and being trained.
Yes.
But also, I think the need for every woman to know that you can actually help, because a lot of women also,
Yes.
there are women who say, I have too much breast milk. My baby can't take all this milk.
Even babies
And
who've
they're just
died.
wasting it.
Even
And-
babies who've died.
Yes,
you're
actually women, yeah, and apparently it really gives you a lot of comfort.
It does for some women, and also the depression that comes with having engorged breasts and your baby is dead.
Yes.
So usually, I've had stories, I've not gone through it myself, but I've had that those women find comfort in donating that breast milk to another baby.
It helps with the grieving.
Yes. And then I was still going through the hierarchy. There's pasteurized donor milk, but then there's this informal milk sharing that happens. I get on Facebook.
Like what used to happen back in the day. I mean,
Yeah.
back in the day, one day, what are they called? Milkmaids?
nurses.
Wet
Wet
nurses, but they
nurses.
wasn't known as actual milkmaids.
Yes.
Because they would feed some people's babies.
Yes. So, of course, there's also milk sharing. There's the informal one. It has, well, you'd have to, why
have to
now
really know that-
official breast milk banks are a great idea is because they've scanned the milk,
It's important.
the blood of the mom, because what's in your blood is in your milk. That's why your breast milk cannot be spoiled, because it has stayed in the breasts long. But let's move. Also, your blood is not spoiled.
Oh my God.
No, seriously, people
No,
think.
I'm laughing because a lot of people, no, they have to get rid of this one first. And I've heard that.
Yeah.
Like if you've spent, let's say, for whatever reason, a couple of hours away from your baby and your breasts are so full, there are women who say, this is old milk, I have to express it so I can make fresh milk.
I go to work all day, my breast milk is spoiled, it's going to make my baby sick, and it's really not true. Is your blood spoiled?
No.
No. And it's in your body, you don't take it out.
Thank you for that. It's
Yes.
a good one.
So anyway, I was still telling you options. So there's the milk sharing. However, there's some concerns.
Yes,
In
yes.
terms
There
of
you have
someone
to
could be doing drugs or what, or this or that
or
or
they
the
could
other.
have any other things going on. They could
Yes.
have like infections and which you don't want to pass on to your baby. So that one you have to
Yeah.
really do your part to make
Yes.
sure the person is screened properly.
So by the time we get to formula in that hierarchy, I will shock you that even the formula that is recommended is ready to use. It's not powdered formula, because powdered formula is not sterile, and that's a fact. Recently, I think it was 2022, in the US, there was a huge recall of contaminated formula that went out. In South Africa, something like that happened. So there's something called ready-to-take formula. I've never seen it here. But now that's, even when we get formula down there on that hierarchy,
We first start there.
it's a different type of formula. You understand? So by the time you get to powdered tilled formula, and yet it has been presented as your breasts are hurting when you're breastfeeding. Formula, powdered. It's here, you know? And of course, I'll
Wow.
talk about the soy milk
We
formula.
didn't- Yes,
Which
yes. A lot of soy milk is used as a base, or even
Yes.
just people like to give babies soy.
Of course, there's this whole health awakening. Like we want to go away from animal foods and we want to go more vegetable and stuff.
But
It's
also
almost-
that we're learning that it's really bad for baby boys. And
Yes, I was coming to that. So people kind of feel like soy-based formula sounds like a good alternative to cow milk-based formula. But now the research that came out recently, it had been ongoing for years, is that soy-based formula gives gives male babies
A little
homosexual
too,
tendencies.
yeah, a bit too much estrogen. Huh?
Baby boys were found to have more homosexual tendencies from soy-based formula. And it's not these ones of, this whole lifestyle changes going on. Someone wakes up and they identify as something, and so they do whatever they feel is right.
That's not what we're talking about.
This is the reproductive system of baby boys were found to be changed when they were being fed on soy-based formula. And even the girls, they were found that their reproductive system was changed.
It's
So
also
that's how-
affecting the baby girls.
Yeah, so there's also that soy-based
And
formula.
that will lead to fertility issues.
Yeah, fertility issues.
That we're seeing so much now, that are so common as
yes.
well.
So please, the formula people, don't come for me.
I mean, we do understand that there are some situations where, yes, formula is,
Yes.
it has its place,
It does.
but it should not be fronted as the best option.
Yes.
If we know that medicine and science and research actually has proven that
Yes.
it's not the best option.
And we are so blessed that in the breastfeeding field, our nation has amazing policies. So if the kind of work I'm doing, I'm protected.
And people don't even know this, right?
We have amazing policies for breastfeeding. We could add a bit more in the workplace, but the health facility policies and all that, we are good. Of course, we can put more effort now. The number of breast milk banks, the awareness, the education, and all that, and even many countries. But now, where the issue comes in is the money.
Of course.
Because formula companies know how to pay out health professionals, like for sure.
I feel like everything
Yeah.
boils down to the...
Yes, but if you're well educated and you want what's best for your child, you can push back.
Yeah.
You can push back.
And if we find people like you who are
Thank
really, really
you.
passionate about
Yes.
this, I know we're almost out of time,
Yes.
but I wanted to touch on something. I know you hadn't really talked about it, but you
Yes.
said that you are looking at also coming up with some products as well, some, based on this, making sure children have enough nutritious food. So are you
Yes.
working on a line of porridges?
Yes.
Is it?
We have.
Sorry,
It's
I'm getting this
okay.
out there, but I was
So
interested.
next year we are launching some food products.
Okay.
So in my work, helping moms know what foods to introduce to their babies at 6 months, how to balance meals, how to cook and everything, I realized that most mothers don't know how important protein is.
Protein?
Yes.
Okay.
So you'll find most mothers will tell you, oh, I gave my baby Irish with soup of beans, Irish and soup of meat. But a child at that age, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, even 5 years, their bodies grow every day. They're like a construction site.
Yes.
Especially children under 2
Their
years.
bones, their muscles, their everything.
Everything is growing. They need protein. And there are 2 types of protein. The high biological protein, also used to be called high class. Then low biological, used to be called low class. So it's important to balance if your child is having 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, it has to be a balanced meal. And I saw that the nutrient most parents don't know is important is the protein. The protein. So a mom tells you, oh yeah, then I gave her banana mixed with pumpkin and apple. And the mother feels they have really given.
Oh, yes.
And where's the protein? Nowhere. Then I looked at the porridges we had on the market, and my goodness, you look at the percentage of the protein, and you're like, there's hardly any protein in this. But it has a whole category of carbohydrates, which are very important.
They're important
now, that's
too,
the thing.
but
they're very important as well. But where I saw that gap, and then of course we have our statistics here that you can also look through, and you see there's that bit of protein people don't understand much about it. So we have developed a porridge which we are releasing next year, which has high biological protein in a very good amount, complex carbohydrates. It's a good porridge. Yes, to me. I came from my knowledge as a food scientist, a food technologist, an IBCLC, and a nutritionist.
All right.
Specializing in infant and young child feeding. So I brought all that expertise to make a product. How it started actually, I wanted to only make it for my kids. Then I realized, but what about other people's kids? I was going to only make it for my kids, but then I decided, let's put it out there. So we are releasing it next year. We're very excited about that. Then peanut, I shared with you. Groundnuts are really amazing. There's that mixture where you get sim, which is roasted, and ginnuts, which are roasted, and you mash it all together.
This is like kind of going back to our roots.
Yes.
Because I feel like that's what we were eating way
Yes.
back. But hey, now.
It's very healthy, and now you can even mix mukene powder, which hopefully you've made at
good
home.
food. People used to traditionally would pound their own.
Which is amazing. I would actually advise that than getting it from a socio-natural. But what scared me the most is I saw the machines they were using to mill these ginnuts were actually machines which wear into the ginnuts. And that's cancerous. So I was like, I've been buying ginnuts for my babies which are being milled by a machine which wears with time into the ginnuts. That's what birthed us doing our own peanuts. Yes.
Okay.
Then also the kind of yogurt we have on the shelves, honestly.
So high in sugar. Let's start there.
So much sugar, so many things that are really not. I would wish. So I looked for a yogurt. I remember when I would be shopping that, and I would be very specific. I don't want this in it. I don't want this. I don't want that. And I realized, no, we need a product. You know. Then other products as well. Our sausages have a lot of nitrates and things that can be carcinogenic when the sausages are fried and all that. So I had not really had any interest in getting into the food industry in terms of processing.
It's so funny, right?
No, even when I did food science and technology, I knew I'm going to be a nutritionist.
So you weren't looking
Yes.
at this side.
I just didn't know I would come through the hospital route. I thought I would just be out there teaching people what to eat, you know, kind of thing. So I didn't think I would get into manufacturing, but it's out of a need. It's out of a need when I can be talking to moms, oh, give this porridge, and they ask you, which one should I buy? And you're like, okay. I cannot put my hand on my foot for this or that or the other, you know. One time I recommended a porridge for mom, and then I bought that same porridge and I found pieces of a green cavera. Yeah. And I said, what? Looks like to have control and be able to recommend something, it may need me actually making some.
Yeah, you just reminded me of some nature documentary I was watching. I think it's voiced by David Attenborough, and he was basically talking about a certain type of bird that, you know, that the eggs hatch on a beach and then the parents are at sea getting food, basically. Yes. And then they come back to these baby birds, and of course they feed them everything they've collected, but unfortunately because there's so much plastic in our oceans, they, of course, unknowingly, whatever they take up, they're busy giving these baby birds. And then it was the most shocking thing. You just have all these dead little baby birds. There are only a few that survive, and that's because most of them are poisoned by the plastics that the parents have gotten from the ocean. And I'm like, wow. And now you're saying even in something we buy to give our babies, it's... Anyway, there's a lot. There's a lot to be done, and I have to say thank you so much.
Thank you.
For someone who wants to hear more about you, you mentioned your website going up.
Yes.
Can we also find you on social media?
In about 3 weeks. Yes, you can. In about 3 weeks, our website will be up. It will be www.thersf. It's an acronym for the Rebecca Ssuubi Foundation. So thersf.org.
Okay.
Yes, and we're going to be having so many masterclasses there. Amazing videos that we can't really post on other channels will be there. Yes, then on social media, on Instagram, I am at Rebecca Breastfeeding _expert.
Pretty much look for breastfeeding.
Yes, Rebecca Breastfeeding expert.
Yes.
Then I'm not so active on Twitter, but I'm there anyway. Rebecca Ssuubi, IBCLC. All of my other platforms are Rebecca Ssuubi, IBCLC. Okay. Someone asked me that is IBCLC other names. They thought I have like 10 names or something.
Oh my.
It's not.
Well, now you know. Thank you again. I really enjoyed it.
My pleasure.